I actually acted in a few video games and I realized I was like, oh, this is not for me. Although I did do another one that's going to come out in a couple of years now, a Naughty Dog one that's going to be really, really good.
Okay.
A huge fan of the game.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, he says in his big broadcaster announcer voice, there is a reason why I don't make knee-jerk video reactions to the article I'm going to be talking about today, which is Sony apparently really furious at Naughty Dog for not bringing out a new game in 6 years, because the last, believe it or not, 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 was the last video game that we had from that studio. So there was a story running around yesterday that Jason Schreier from Bloomberg had leaked or had a conversation with a reader, and apparently this comment was misinterpreted to say something else. So when you see stuff like this, and right after the opening titles, folks, don't forget to get this video a like and a smashing comment below to get it out in the algorithm.
Rockstar Games reportedly holds a grudge against journalist Jason Schreier. He leaked the planned announcement date for the first GTA 6 trailer. He went to go and interview Sven Vinke at Larian Studios and starts bashing the dude over the head with AI. Like, he's such a snake. Good on Rockstar Games. Thank you guys for having some fucking nuts and not giving this dude an inch. He looks like he was on the island. Okay, Mark, that's a little bit too far. This is too far.
Her voice may be almost as important to gamers as Lara's double pistols, curves, and skimpy shorts.
Kung Fu Hot Dog is a Kung Fu renegade cop. Now he must defeat the most evil Kung Fu master in the world.
For a modern gaming audience.
Get ready for a new world of unspeakable adventures.
I said, Mummy, I like the way the lady runs.
Get ready for a new world of unspeakable adventures never before shown in a motion picture. Get ready for Kung Fu Hot Dog.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Games News Club on X, Sony reportedly unhappy with Naughty Dog's slow PS5 output, which again is something we're going to underline. According to Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, Sony is frustrated by the lack of a new Naughty Dog PS5 release. And of course, if you just go on X and look at everything, people are running rampant with this. Dreamcast guy, one of the guilty culprits, but we know why he makes the videos that he does. But courtesy of Push Square, absurd social media misquotes journalist erroneously claims Sony is angry at Naughty Dog. Another day at the office. And of course, you've got my guy Nathan Drake from Uncharted 4. A fairly tame exchange between reliable Bloomberg journalist Jason Schreier and the reader has resulted in a bunch of bad actors on social media implying that Sony's angry with Naughty Dog. So look at the exchange right here. It seems fairly innocuous. Company has no issue letting Naughty Dog spend 5+ years and $300 million on a single player title now, concerned about spending money on a new MMO shooter with a built-in fan base. Just fantastic. And then Schreier here says, oh, they definitely have an issue with that. Now, of course, when you get into the article here, which I'm going to cover for you very quickly, you'll see that it is blown out of context. So for those who missed it, the Washington studio is wrapping up support on Destiny 2 and doesn't have a new project in the pipeline. Layoffs are expected at the Sony subsidiary while it continues to support Marathon and plan out what's next. Many pondered why the team hadn't immediately started working on Destiny 3, which from all accounts isn't going to happen unless I get that wrong again, then suddenly it is going to get fast-tracked. The answer is, as usually, how much money it would take, Schreier wrote on Blue Sky. Now, it's a fairly innocuous exchange, as this article says here, that Sony would be concerned that their, you could call it their mascot leading studio, Naughty Dog. Like when PlayStation was launched, who was there at the helm with Crash Bandicoot? Of course, it's Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog in the good old days, not what they are now, sadly. Now, while yet earlier today a Reddit thread popped up misinterpreting Schreier's words, insinuating he was saying PlayStation is unhappy about Naughty Dog. And here's the gentleman whose tweet started a whole firestorm, Dom the Bomb. But as I prefer to call him, Dom the Bum. Jason Schreier recently commented that Sony is reportedly upset with Naughty Dog over no new game for PlayStation 5 in 6 years, and the gigantic budget that Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet is accumulating. But as you can see here from the Community X notice, misleading, Schreier was commenting on Sony's attitude as a whole towards its subsidiaries, not just Naughty Dog. Oopsie! Now, the problem with stories like this, and after the reason why you should debunk them after they go viral on social media, often without any clarification or correction, it leads to false narratives, and unfortunately people rarely ever look at the actual sources, which is like the golden rule of if you're covering an entertainment story, go to places like The Hollywood Reporter, Variety or Deadline, because they will not publish those stories without verification from reliable sources within the film industry. Now, I don't think it's a surprise to learn that Sony is concerned about lengthening development cycles and inflating budgets, because we've got that Fair Games that might still be coming out, who knows? But the way Schreier's comments were misinterpreted made this seem like a much more dramatic story than it actually is, because Schreier recently made a post on Blue Sky that he's spent 6 years at Bloomberg, very cool company, which again, I don't think they are. If you've seen how they go after content creators, very prominent in the field of video games, and try to bring them down and end up looking stupid in the process. I'm talking about Gamers Nexus, if you've seen that whole debacle. So when Schreier says that he's sticking up from Bloomberg because of course he's getting paid a handsome salary each month, why wouldn't he stick up for them and say they're the greatest company and greatest people ever? Which I find absolutely hilarious. But let's talk about Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet, because this clip from Neil Druckmann had me a little bit concerned, and I thought I'd do a little bit more digging, but this is what Neely really had to say.
Likewise, I get the joy of, we have several directors on Intergalactic. I work with 2 game directors, Matthew Gallant and Kurt Marganow.
I thought he was going to say 2 gay directors, because that would make sense about the new modern day Naughty Dog at Sony.
I have a co-writer in Claire Carey on Intergalactic. So there's times
we'll see
where
him
I'm
in a
away,
minute.
and they are in charge. I get to come back and be surprised and enjoy with certain choices they made, and certain other ones I pull my hair out and we have to change course or argue about it. And I'm convinced that I'm wrong.
Yeah, Neil, you are losing your hair at the moment.
And then, there's another game that's being worked out at Naughty Dog where I'm more of a producer role, and I get to mentor and watch this other team and give feedback and be like the executive in the room. I enjoy all those roles, and the fact that I jump between one to the next, it makes my job very exciting and always feeling fresh. I'm never bored.
He's a bit of a lazy bum now. He's a bit of a schlub because he just wants to do his own little thing. And the other game that he's talking about, it might be an Uncharted game. It could be that Carrie Drake spin-off game from the Uncharted franchise. I suspect it's that. But again, he has these other people filling in key roles that he doesn't want to get involved with anymore. So it's going to be, I'm very, very curious to see on the 2nd of June. That's when the next Sony State of Play game reveals will be shown to the public, but I don't think they're going to let that demo of Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet be seen at this moment in time, even though a fully playable demo has been witnessed at Naughty Dog, but no one else has actually managed to get their hands on it. I think it's only a matter of time as well before a leak of that comes out, like screenshots, not the gameplay as such. But it does make me think as well that the reason why Sony are veering away from Steam and their games getting PC ported over, because if you see the visual aesthetic of the female lead character of Jordan, that's played by Tati Gabrielle in Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet, what are people going to do? They're going to get Nexus mods to make her face a lot more prettier, because that game could be a banger, but people are going to have a problem, not everybody, with the actual design of the character based on a real life actress who, by the way, starred or was a co-star in Mortal Kombat 2 with Karl Urban, a film that didn't do as well as expected, and I wonder where everywhere she goes, films or projects seem to fail at the drop of a hat. But there was a writer that Neil Druckmann mentioned here, who I'll come to in a second, which gives me a few red flags about this game. But here we are on the IMDb page, and honestly, I really thought this was going to be a game about diversity, because that's all it seems to be at the moment. But shock of shocks, Troy Baker, who said it's the most complex video game he's worked on so far, Stephen A. Chang, Tony Dalton, who was in a Marvel project recently. I think it was, I don't really care, to be honest. Oh, it was Daredevil, Bored Again. Then Tati, then Kumail Nanjiani, who I actually happen to like. He plays Colin Graves, the leader of a group called the Five Aces. So they could be baddies, but apparently his part is meant to be quite funny because he is a comedian and a bit of a muscle man. He's a good dude, I like him. Ashley Scott, haven't seen her in a long time. And Halle Wergren Gross, who is the main culprit and writer for The Last of Us Part 2. She is just an awful human being. But one of the writers that Neil Druckmann called out here was Claire Carrere, and this is what she looks like. Now, have a look at Miss Carrere's career so far. Just 3 credits to her name, not as a writer, but as a director. Now she's a co-writer or mainline writer for Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Sounds familiar, right? Oh, and Eniguera, Supergirl, directed by Craig Gillespie under the tutelage of James Gunn and Peter Safran. So I am wondering already if there is a bit of a red flag to be noted here. Again, if you look at who's writing your video game, the Bluehead Bimp, well, what are you expected to think, folks? Now, on the final note I'm going to say about Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, which goes back to that article I covered before, they're calling it a PlayStation 5 title, not a PlayStation 6. As the wide opinion goes, if the PlayStation 6 comes out in 2027, which it probably won't, maybe 2028, this is expected to be, or perceived or rumored to be, a launch title with that game. I agree with the opinion that it's not a strong enough title to sell that console. You'd have to actually bring in some OG titles like a new Crash Bandicoot game that has up-res graphics and looks absolutely crazy. Go back to the old library of what made Sony PlayStation great, like a brand new Killzone game I would absolutely love. If you got those games lined up, you have to have at least 3 or 4 banger titles that will get released within 4 months of each other, just to make it more appealing for the customer to invest in a PlayStation 6. But I don't know if that will happen. And Your Honor, the final thing I want to say is this: Neil Druckmann idolizes Hideo Kojima. He wants to be him. I think Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet is going to be his swan song to video gaming, and a bit of a nod and a blow a kiss to Hideo himself, because they're billing this game as the most complex thing ever. It could be his, Druckmann's, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Not The Odyssey as in that Greek fairy tale that people love so much, because obviously now Nolan has taken that and he's trying to make it his own thing with a few bits of feminist crap thrown in for good measure. And I honestly was disappointed when I looked at the cast listing for Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, because I really thought it was going to be a video game about diversity and ideologies and agendas. And maybe it might still be, but we'll have to wait and see until we get a look at a first demo run through, probably with Jordan, because apparently her name harkens back to an earlier Naughty Dog title or piece of software called Jam back in the PlayStation ye old days. So I'm very curious, but I do think that this will be Neil Druckmann's last hurrah for video gaming before he jumps off the map and does other side projects by himself. And I think the sooner that happens, the better it is for Sony to rethink and probably undo some of the damage that Jim Ryan has left behind. I'm kind of blaming him for everything. trying to make games as a service, which nobody actually cares about. Fair games, why haven't we got any screenshots or even game footage of what that live action, live service game looks like? Because I can tell you this much, folks, from what I've read and from what I heard, it sounds like absolute dog shit. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if I were you and if you were me, I will catch you catching me for the return of the next video.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Pack up your stuff. I got a little surprise for you here.
Check it out. What do you think about that? We got real-time, 3D, lush organic environments. How's that make you feel, buddy?
Feel a little like your days are numbered?
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
You're hurting my elbow.
Is that Italian?
No, Bandicoot is an Australian name.